And we're back on the build phase. Today we have some more live dice throw in action filmed at the Dice Spot in Wavell Heights. This is part of the same Australian tournament that Slip and I did some analysis for last week. Alright, it looks like the Moon Elf is going to go first here. Alright, so we're getting our opening hands. And alright, now that to me looks like a pretty good covered shot roll. And evasion on turn one you got to feel pretty decent about. Although, if I had to pick a status effect that was going to be the most crucial to this overall matchup, it's not going to be evasion, although that and protect. Those are both very good defensive status effects. The status effect I think is most critical to this particular matchup is going to be targeted. Both of these characters kind of rely on targeted to get their damage numbers into a respectable... Oh! And right there, that's a covered shot. Whoa. Going for the straight, I guess? Oh, no. We could maybe call this tournament jitters here. He wanted the covered shot. And good sportsmanship on Slip's part, saying, yeah, go ahead and take it. That's fine. Alright, so the evasion, 7 damage coming in. And that's going to be reduced by 4, so only 3 damage? Yeah, 3 damage coming to our Tactician. Wow, that was a wild defense roll. So looking at this from the Tactician perspective, I think you really want to start stacking your tactical advantage early. That's kind of... Oh, going into a Profiteer here. Wow, these turns are fast. So I'm a big fan of the Profiteer ability, the gaining the tactical advantage automatically, and then the 3 different options that you could potentially end up with, either doing 5 damage or gaining even more tactical advantage, enough tactical, like essentially maxing out your tactical advantage with 1 move, or drawing a card and taking another turn. All of those feel extremely good. Oh, so Slip's breaking down all the different options that are available for tactical advantage here. And his Profiteer activation is going to be 5 incoming damage for the elf. Right? Two. Did he activate Carpet Bomb? No, he did Profiteer. That should have been 5 damage, and it's defendable, so there should have been a Moon Elf defense roll there. So one of the drawbacks of TOing an event that you're playing in is sometimes in the middle of your gameplay you have to answer rules questions, and that's what's happening to Slip right here. So I think there's probably some time that should have been spent debating whether or not evasion was going to be popped on that attack. Seeing as how that was 5 incoming damage off the Profiteer, you have to wonder, is it worth it to pop the evasion on a relatively minor amount of damage? And if you don't pop the evasion, it leaves it sitting there potentially to be bye-byed or what status affected away. And those cards are certainly active to take away an evasion. I mean, the only juicier target would be removing a blind off yourself. So to kind of continue the analysis of this matchup while we wait for Slip to get back, I think both of these characters have kind of middling damage output overall, and it, again, really comes down to... Oh, he's going to catch the 5. And he's saying the elf needs to roll defense. Okay, so once Slip gets back to the table, we're getting this all taken care of. And this is just the nature of running events. Sometimes things get a little sloppy around the edges, but that's part of the fun of being able to get together and play games in person, something I desperately miss. Alright, so the Moon Elf ends up ultimately taking 5 damage and still no consideration of the evasion there. Okay. I think if I was in the Moon Elf's position there, I may have gone ahead and popped that evasion. You don't necessarily want to allow the Tactician the ability to steal that away from you. Alright, upgrading Demising Shot. That's an upgrade I actually like when I'm playing Moon Elf. Uh-oh. The dreaded 2 6s on the opening roll. That's I've chased 2 6s down many a rabbit hole to a scratch. Although here, instead of a scratch, he's going to get to take advantage of his newly upgraded Demising Shot. Now here comes Targeted. Targeted is, again, I think this is going to be a very important status effect for the overall resolution of this match. So both of these characters, talk a little bit more about some of the other status effects. Both of these characters have strong defensive abilities. Protect for the Tactician and Evasion for the Moon Elf, as well as the Moon Elf's ability to just straight up reduce damage by half, which is almost like having access to the Protect status effect on top of the Evasion. So in terms of hitting and making those hits stick and deal decent damage, I feel like the Tactician is a wee bit of a disadvantage here. Alright, so here we have a early game ultimate resolving. That does not feel good if you're sitting on Adam's side of the table. And to only need twice as wild to get there for the rest of it to come nat. Oh, I like the way of using a uncoin capsuled tactical advantage to indicate that the stack limit has been increased by 1. Wow, what a massive blow. Alright, so Constrict is going to work a little bit like a worse Entangled. It's kind of crazy how many similarities there are between these two characters in terms of how their status effects works. So there's conversation here as to whether the transference is going to get rid of Targeted or Constrict. I feel like I would prefer to get rid of Targeted, even though it's a little bit of a waste in the sense that the Targeted is already active on the Tactician, but the Constrict is going to go away by itself. Okay, so Slip is coaching his opponent here that this is not a great play because there's so much tactical advantage in play that the Tactician could... Okay, so he's still going to sell the card. I think that's probably the right call. I mean, Evasion is tough in this matchup, especially once you see that the Tactician has all that tactical advantage on him. If you try to stack Evade and the Tactician's at all worried about it, he's just going to steal it with tack. Got to be feeling a little discouraged on the Moon Elf side of the board here. Coming into roll phase, like the big Demising Shot hit last turn felt good, but anytime you get cracked with an ultimate, it kind of breaks your spirit just a little bit. Or maybe I should only speak for me. So he's going to have to pay for the reroll. Oh, jeez, what do you do with this? do you want to tap all your CP out just to try to roll into something, or do you just settle with a longbow here? I think I would probably settle with the longbow here. Even though it's low damage, the targeted kind of helps bump it up just a little bit. I think if I'm in Slip's position and my opponent comes at me with targeted, I'm going to spend my tactical advantage to get rid of that targeted, even if it kind of just fizzles on the opponent because they already have one. Not in every matchup, but in this particular matchup, I feel like this one's a little bit of a game of inches. Both of these characters don't have the best damage output, and the little differences, the being able to get those attacks through with the targeted damage is really where a lot of this is going to come from. I think the Moon Elf's defense matters a lot too, and while the Tactician has the ability to kind of do a similar thing with Protect, any status effect is going to be more vulnerable than just a printed defense ability on a character, and it's not like the Tactician has that many undefendable attacks. What is it, 2 on his whole board? So I don't blame Adam for thinking this over for a while here. He's in a bit of a tough spot. He's going to have to spend CP if he wants to try to roll this into something better. And if he doesn't, he's looking at 4, potentially 6. But again, I'd be skeptical that Slip would let the longbow attack come through for 6. I would not be surprised to see... Oh, he's declaring focused? No. Okay, he must have gone with longbow. Because focus doesn't produce an attack. So I wonder if the calculation Slip made here is that the tactical advantage is worth more, potentially drawing an extra card, producing a Protect, rather than trying to just get that targeted off of him. It does give you a lot of flexibility, and at this point, being ahead on life, maybe giving up 2 extra to the targeted doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Hanging on to the sabers, it looks like. Yep. Okay, I imagine there's a saber strike incoming. Oof. That's going to be a bit of an anemic saber strike with the entangle forcing him to give up his last roll. Yeah. Very similar to what Moon Elf did last turn. We have the minimum activation of the basic ability plus 2 extra damage from the targeted. So I suspect the calculation that Slip has done is looking at, well, if the Moon Elf can get a big attack off, then I want to have the tactical advantage to be able to spend it on a Protect to blunt that big attack, and that's worth more. Oh, all right, we have an evasion being spent here. Doesn't do anything. Life tile goes right back down to where it was. You gotta feel pretty decent looking at this life total and overall game state. While both players' hands look a little depleted, nobody's sitting on like a big stockpile of CP. The Tactician is a little bit ahead in the life race, and I mean, 7 damage ahead, that's essentially a full turn. Keeping a 6. He's only showing 2 CP. There can't be that many dice. Oh, nope, throwing the 6 back. Okay. 4. Nope. Alright, so we have a small straight coming up here from the elf. That's going to entangle. And it'll turn 7 damage to 9 with the targeted. Are we going to see tactical advantage or move the target here? So 2 damage back to our moon elf. Aha, so he's going to but buy the targeted rather than use the tactical advantage. That's fine. I do think that makes sense. But buy can only remove a status effect. A tactical advantage could be a protect. It could be an extra card. It could be a reroll. So given the composition of these hands, I think but buying the targeted there makes a lot more sense than using the tactical advantage. Though I would contend getting rid of the targeted there is a big deal and needed to happen. If you're sitting on the tactician side of the board, that is. I'm sure Adam is like, "Aw, why don't you let that targeted stay there?" Oh, second main phase action here to transference the targeted back to the tactician, or to target him again. So Slip rolled his CP dial back down and put the card back on top of his deck. Since technically it's still Adam's turn, he shouldn't have access to those resources. Okay, card sold. Now it looks like turn is being passed. I do like this. If you're on the Moon Elf side of the board, passing turn with some CP, potentially that means there could be a helping hand. He didn't play the helping hand when the ultimate came out earlier in the game, so it's safe to assume he didn't have it then. But it's better to have access or make your opponent think about them having access. And there we see the targeted go back to the Moon Elf using tactical advantage. I mean, that's a profiteer. Yeah, especially with Entangled, I feel like you kind of have to take that. So a 4 is going to essentially max out the attack again. Now this can't feel good. Now I understand that if you've got that entangle sitting on you, taking what the dice give you on turn 1, okay, fine. But now you've spent a turn where you didn't really develop any kind of a threat. Like, you didn't take any health away from your opponent, and that life advantage is starting to look a little bit narrower. I think that might be a covered shot in the making. That's probably where I would be going. Yeah, evasion would feel good here. If he's going to transfer it with tactical advantage, fine. At least then he doesn't have it to fiddle with other things. So in order to avoid maxing out the stack, Slip is going to spend some of the TA to draw a card. Then he's going to gain off his defense roll, as well as deal 1 damage back and prevent 1. Wow, a very active defense here. So we have a large straight upgrade coming down for the Tactician. What do you do with that? I mean, you've got a Saber Strike right there, but not being afflicted by Entangled or anything else. I can't imagine you'd be satisfied sticking with that. I'm not sure how heavily I would want to chase a Profiteer. He's not hurting for tactical advantage. Man, I think I would just throw the 4s back and try to get more damage on my Saber Strike. That's probably where I'd be at. I don't like the idea of keeping a 2 and a 4 trying to chase a straight. Yeah. Keep the 1, throw the 4 back. Yep. The full Saber Strike, so that's going to be 8 damage once the targeted gets calculated in. And look at the difference that makes. 6 damage feels a bit weak. 8 damage feels like a very strong basic attack. So that's going to reduce it by half, as well as deal the damage back to Slip. That's got to feel bad. So he did attempt to use the evasion there, and it did not succeed. So if you're in Slip's shoes, I think you're gonna go for a big attack here. That's the way I would want to play this. I'm looking at this health differential and the stack of tack advantage that's sitting on top of the Tactician, and the oh yeah, wrong turn. I definitely think the tactical advantage, having the ability to be converted into a protect, has got to feel pretty intimidating if you're on the Moon Elf side of things. That demising shot feels good though. Reapply targeted, again, very important status effect for this specific matchup. Now Slip has to make a choice. Is he going to burn the tactical advantage to try to get that targeted off of him? Nope, he's going to get the protect. Okay. So that's going to take the 8 incoming damage down to a 4, if my math is correct. Okay. Got to be feeling some pressure here if you're in the Tactician seat. It looks like there's a Profiteer, but I mean, is that good enough? If you're holding a 6-it in hand, I would go Profiteer. I would use the 6-it to make it a 6, and I would take a second offensive roll phase. Get another card. So he's going to max out his tactical advantage here. And that's it. Ugh. Alright, so if you're on Adam's side of the board, you gotta love this. This has got to feel really good. Okay. My opponent isn't putting pressure on me. I've got some breathing room. I mean, eradicating the targeted feels absolutely critical at this juncture. when you've only got 11 health left, 2 extra damage from any source is something you have to take very seriously. I mean, that's practically 20% of his total health. Obviously not quite, but close. So I think if I was in Adam's shoes, I would, if I have any cards I could sell, I'd sell them now, so I've got some CP to play whatever dice fixing cards I have, and then just see what the opening roll is. Man, he kept that 6 fast. He kept that 6. Oh, geez, that was aggressive. Okay, so I ended up with 2 6s. He's got to have some stuff to play. Yep. Twice as wild and 6 it. Alright, we have Moon Elf attempting an ult here. Is he going to get the Lunar Eclipse? There's only 1 CP on Slip's side, so what could he have? Tippet or Helping Hand? No, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. Wow. And that really comes down to the wire. That's a 12 damage ultimate. I guess it would inflict targeted, so it would be 14 damage. Holy smokes. Well, good game, Adam. Both players, I think, made some really sharp choices as we moved through it. And it really does feel like it was a game that was fought on the battle of status effects. So thanks again to Slip for providing us these videos, and to all the players who came out to Dice Spot for letting me comment on their play. And until next time, go win some games.